Quite a while ago, I reviewed Rune Factory for the Nintendo DS, so I thought it was only fitting that I eventually review the sequel. The game begins with your character arriving in the town of Alvarna. As would become tradition with this series, he has no memory of who he was, where he originally came from, or how he arrived here. Thankfully, you're found by a girl named Mana, who just so happens to know of some unused farmland where you can live. And so begins your agricultural adventure. There's a lot in common that this entry has with its predecessor. You could plant and harvest crops, as well as fight monsters outside of town. You'll also need to keep an eye out for your HP and your RP. As for adventuring, there are 4 locations you can visit, each based off of the 4 seasons, which also means there are spots where you can plant the appropriate crops. While there is some exploring and monster hunting you can do, you'll notice that several paths are blocked off and inaccessible. However, there are still monsters you could tame and keep in your barn once you have one built. One thing that's new to this game is the request board. This is where the villagers will post assignments that you could complete for a reward. It's definitely in your best interest to complete as many of them as you can during early game, as several of them will give you important tools. In addition to rewards, the requests from bachelorettes act as heart events as you increase their affection levels. In other words, you'll need to complete all of your chosen sweetheart's requests if you want to marry her. The later heart requests feel more like date invitations than assignments, which I think is a nice touch, since it feels like you're actually courting the girl. I should also mention that there's actually quite a bit of voice acting this time around. As for the quality of the voice acting, well, it leaves a bit to be desired.
I fell down and skinned my knee. It hurts.
You have to fall to learn about pain.
Hey, is Cammy hiding in here?
No, I haven't seen her. Are you two playing hide and seek again?
You sure? I'd better take a look myself.
Even for the voice acting that sounds okay, it often still sounds as though this was literally the first time the actors read the lines aloud, and whoever was directing decided that was good enough. In fact, there's even one instance where the fortune teller will recite one of her incantations incorrectly.
Holy hala, jamilala, wala.
The lackluster English dubbing is kind of surprising too, given the prominent voice actors in the Japanese version, which included Nana Mizuki as Mana. Speaking of Mana, she's the bachelorette that the game pushes you towards, just like how Mist was in the last game. She's featured heavily on the cover, the animated opening segment, and the main menu screen. While Mana isn't a creepy home invader like Mist, I still decided to go for Cecilia, who is the same Cecilia that was in Rune Factory 1. And a significant reason for that is because I didn't want a sweet girl like her to be stuck in a marriage with this asshole. Which, yes, means that there are rival marriages in this game. Not just that though, but you can also steal a rival's bride right at the altar. If you have 10 hearts for a bachelorette, and you attend her rival wedding, you could declare your love for her right then and there, and she'll marry you instead. That's right, this game has a cuck mechanic. And frankly, not only should more of these kinds of games have a rival system, but they should also let you steal the bride or groom on their wedding day. I was tempted to do this with Jake because I hate him, but I just decided to marry Cecilia as soon as I was able to. Unlike the previous Rune Factory, where having a child took a very long time, your wife in Rune Factory 2 will say that she'll be having a baby any day now, once 2 or so weeks pass after you're married. Apparently, any day now actually means any minute now, because when you return inside the house, she'll be holding a newborn son or daughter. Then, at that very moment, the 2 of you decide that it's in your child's and everyone else's best interest to build a school. Once the academy is built, the game progresses 7 years. Then one night, your character suddenly decides to leave town, leaving behind a cryptic message for his child. That's when your son or daughter becomes the new player character, promises to find their father, and make sense of why he disappeared. This is where the story really begins to take traction. And it's not just the first player character that has a child. All the other bachelorettes and their respective rivals will have their own children, who become the new player character's classmates. This is something I particularly like about this game, because other people getting married and having children of their own really makes it feel like the town is growing with you, as well as life in general continuing to progress around you, instead of just your own child being one of the only youngsters around. Unfortunately, your father's farm tools have become old and rusted, which means they've regressed to level 1 status. However, you're now able to slip past those barriers outside of town and can now fight boss enemies. You'll also inherit your father's skills and level status, as well as any items he had on hand, kind of like a New Game Plus. So it's a good idea to invest some time to increasing your skills during the first generation. The school that your original character had built isn't just there to be a big fancy building though. You'll be able to take 2 lessons each from the 2 teachers there. In the mornings, you'll learn recipes for food, medicine, and accessories from Mana. In the afternoon, you'll learn smithing instruction from Barrett. However, you won't actually be able to put these lessons into action until you have a workshop built, as well as purchase the appropriate facilities. You'd think that the previous player character would have had that covered during the 7-year time skip, but I guess he just forgot or something. Whatever the case, you'll now be free to have the full Rune Factory experience. For as much as I like the first Rune Factory, I really think the sequel was a big step forward. I like the increased focus on the life sim aspects, while also not neglecting the farming sim and JRPG mechanics. A lot of the times, there isn't too much that's different or to work towards after having a child in these games, so it's nice that they actually play a significant role in the story. They even have a school life, technically optional as it may be, and several peers that are around the same age as them. Even with all of the newer entries and special editions of Rune Factory games being released, I'd still say that Rune Factory 2 is worth going back to. Thanks so much for watching! If you enjoyed the video, be sure to click like, and subscribe if you want to see more.